Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the one and only world famous Rich Wilson show. I'm Rich Wilson, and it's good to be back. That's right. It is great to be back here. By the way, for those of you that are regulars to the show, you've noticed there's been a little bit of changes. I'm trying to go with a little more of a professional look for a change. Yeah, turn that down just a hair. That's getting a little there. Also, we have actually turned around and we've gotten the computer system completely rebuilt. When the hope is that with this new system, we should be able to we should be able to stream this without too many terrible issues. At least that's the hope. I've noticed that is really, really bright above my head. But that's where it's going to be. Give me 1 second. There we go. That's a little bit better. I had the wrong setting on the light. That happens sometimes. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the world famous Rich Wilson show. Jinx, how are you doing, brother? Good to see you there, up there in the chat. Like I said, I kind of hope the overlays kind of look kind of cool and things look neat. And like I said, a little bit more professional. At least that's the aim. So anyway, let's get into the crux of what tonight's show is about. Tonight's show is going to touch a touchy subject out there, folks. And we're not going to lie on this one. This one's going to be a little bit touchy here. So, have you guys noticed lately what the narrative that's trying to get pushed around is that voter ID laws and the voter laws that states have are racist, and it's complete garbage. I'm glad you like it, Jinx. Like I said, I'm going with a little bit more of a professional look. They're garbage. And the reason why they're garbage, and I did a lot of research over the past 48 hours trying to look into this to see, are they really racist? You know, because they keep saying this. They keep talking about it. They keep saying that these things are racist. And so I was just like, all right, let me take a look into this and let me see what I can find. And so I did. I looked into everything I could possibly find. And lo and behold, here's some of the things that I found. One of the issues that they said was a problem with voter IDs being racist because our voter laws being racist is because felons can't vote. Say, well, felons aren't allowed to vote, and a majority of felons are people of minority, and they can't vote. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Here is the state overview for the United States, and this comes from vote.org. Okay. From vote.org, we have voting rights retained while in prison for felony convictions. Now, in the state of Maine, Vermont, and the District of Columbia, even if you're incarcerated, they have to allow you to vote, and what they do is they allow you to vote through absentee ballots, okay? Voting rights restored automatically upon release from prison. In the state of California, Colorado, Connecticut, Hawaii, Illinois, Indiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Montana, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Nevada, North Dakota, Ohio, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Utah, and Virginia, as soon as you're released, you get to vote. So there you go. It's automatic. As soon as you get out, you go back down, you get a new ID, you re-register to vote, and poof, there you go. So now let's take a look at voter rights restored automatically upon completion of sentence, including prison. Both parole probation is in Georgia, Idaho, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, New Mexico, North Carolina, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Texas, Washington, West Virginia. I don't know why, West Virginia, Wisconsin, and I don't know why there was an asterisk next to the state of Washington. And the reason why I say that is because when I looked on the website to find out why there's an asterisk, it didn't say why. So I cannot answer that question. And I went looking into Washington voter laws when it comes to restoring voter rights once you're released from prison or off parole and probation. I can't find anything except it pretty much matches the rest of them. So I don't know why they put the asterisk there. I guess they're meaning the state of Washington, not Washington, D.C., but they didn't say D.C. They said District of Columbia. Voting rights restoration can depend on the state or conviction or repayment of fines, outcomes of an individual petition to government or gubernatorial pardon. Alabama, Alaska, Arkansas, Arizona, Florida, Delaware, Kentucky, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Wyoming. All right. So what does this mean? If you are convicted of a felon, if you were in the top 3 states, or, well, one's not a state, they want to make it a state, that'll be a whole nother show. But if you're in the top 3, you, while still in prison, get to vote. Okay? And the second one, voting rights restored automatically upon completion of sentence, including prison, both parole and probation. In those states, even if you get a prison sentence, and say you get 20 years with the possibility of parole in 5, okay, and then you get out and say the remainder of your sentence, which is the remaining 15 years, you're on probation or you're on parole. Okay, you're on parole for 15 years. You still don't get to vote until your probation or your or if you're you're on parole, you got paroled out, you don't get to vote for the remaining 15 years. Once that's completed, once your sentence is done, then you get to vote again. Okay? You go down, you re-register, and you get to vote again. Okay? What you do is you get a letter from the court that says you have completed your entire sentencing and you're free and clear, and then you get to vote again, and then they register you to vote. Okay, probation is if you get a felony and you're put onto probation instead of going to prison. It's still for the duration of the probation. Sometimes the sentence could be 5 years in with 5 years probation outside. Same thing, 10 years, then you get to vote again. The third one is a little more on the complicated side. The third one is not only do you have to serve, you have to pay all your fines, your restitutions. Then you have to make a petition to the government, and all it is a little form. I looked into it for the state of Delaware because that's where I'm from. All you do is you fill out a form, you send it back. Okay? And then you don't even send it in to them. You walk into the office, you take it in with your certificate saying you've completed everything and the judge has cleared you. And then poof, you get it back. Now there are some instances where they will not certify it. Convicted for a sex offense. They will not sign it off. You've lost your rights for life on voting. Delaware states convicted sex offenders are not permitted to vote, will not get authorization. I can't speak for the other states because I didn't dig into them that far, but I can tell you that that's the case. Okay, so when they tell you felons can't vote, that's that's crap. Yes, they can. Okay, so don't let them push that narrative on you. Okay, yes, you can vote when you're a felon. Because felony follows you for the rest of your life unless you get it expunged from your record. Okay? So, you can still vote as a felon. There are certain states that have certain processes you have to complete in order to do so, but you still get to vote. So don't let anybody tell you this. All right, let's take a look. And God, you can't really read that one. I picked the wrong one. All right, so let me blow this up, which is going to make this look bad. But let me blow this up a little bit more. Okay. There we go. Like I said, it kind of shoots to crap the whole thing. Voter registration rules in the state of Texas because a lot of times when they say racist voter laws, they bring up Texas. To register in the state of Texas, you must be a citizen of the United States of America, be a resident of the county in which your application for registration is made, be 17 years of age and 10 months old, you must be 18 at the moment of elections, not be convicted of a felony, or if you are a convicted felon, you must have fully discharged your punishment, including incarceration, parole, supervision, period of probation, or be pardoned. Have not been declared mentally incompetent by a final judge of a court of law. That means even if your psychologist says you're nuts, unless a judge says that you're certifiably nuts, you can still vote. Now, is it then they say it's racist because it's difficult for people to register to vote. Well, here's how you register to vote in the state of Texas. Use the Register to Vote tool at vote.org and fill out the National Voter Registration Form. Sign and date your form. That's very important. You can mail or hand deliver your completed form to the address we provide. Make sure you're registered before the voting registration deadline is, and in Texas, it's 30 days. Okay, so 30 days. So if the election is November 2nd, then guess what? You need to be registered, and it needs to be in their hands by October 2nd. Now, there is a case in some situations where if November 2nd, or if the election day, like if the state or your local municipality has an election and happens on a different day, and the first day in that 30-day period is a Sunday, then it's 29 days prior. So it's the Monday that immediately follows the start of that deadline. Okay, so let's just say, but it doesn't, November 2nd falls on a Sunday, and you want to be registered to vote, but you don't get it done in time, and October 2nd happens, but October 2nd is a Sunday. You have until midnight to change from October 3rd to 4th, which is Monday, to get your registration in. I don't see where any of that is difficult. They say in Texas it's difficult to vote. That is also not true. Now, one of the things they said is, well, voter ID law in the state of Texas is racist. They've said this over and over again, that it's racist. And I'm trying to look to see what I did with it, and I can't find it. No, I can't. Okay, give me a second here. I'm going to pull up. I have an image for you that I want to show you how these people keep pushing this narrative that voting is racist. And I want you to see if you could spot. You got to give me a second here. I thought I had this image, and when I went through and looked at everything, I thought it was there, and it wasn't. Okay, so we're gonna go through this together, and we're gonna highlight what they say. This comes from the American Bar Association, the Association of Lawyers. Okay, if you pass the bar, you're eligible to be a part of the American Bar Association. Voter ID laws have been underlining racial bias, have underlining racial bias, and prevent minorities from engaging in active democratic participation. These requirements compel an individual to present his or her ID in order to cast a ballot on Election Day. Obtaining an ID can be costly. I'll get to that in a minute. That's inaccurate. And require an individual to have their birth certificate, which may be burdensome. It's not burdensome to get your birth certificate. Proponents advocate for the law under the guise of preventing voter fraud and ensuring that only voter-eligible citizens partake in elections. However, individuals who lack government-issued identification are more than likely to be younger, less educated, and impoverished, and most notably, non-white. Let me read that for you one more time. Individuals who lack government-issued identification are more likely to be younger, less educated, impoverished, and that they just posted there. They are saying that non-white people are ignorant and broke. Ignorant and broke. And this is going on. This is what they've been saying all along. Biden even said it when he was on the campaign trail. Okay? That black people were not smart enough to know where to get IDs or didn't have the money to get IDs. That's your president that said that. He said that. That is a direct quote from the campaign trail. An example of inherent discrimination of voter ID laws can be found in the implement of Georgia's exact match system. This program requires an individual's voting status to be suspended if the name on their driver's license or social security records does not exactly match the name inputted on their voter registration form. And the state of Georgia instructs you, well, you can do it online. The program requires that. Nope, I already read that. Of the 51,000 individuals that this law affected in 2018, 80% of them were African American. There is evidence that the exact match law played a role in a 2018 Georgia gubernatorial election as African American candidate Stacey Abrams lost by approximately 55,000 votes. We're also talking about the woman who has still to this day refused to succeed. Okay, first of all, let me poke some holes in their statement about Georgia's law because I researched it today. Number one, if you cannot afford an ID to vote, you go in, you fill out an affidavit stating that you are getting your ID in order to register, because in the state of Georgia, you're required once you get to the age of 18 to have an ID. You're not required to have a driver's license, but you're required to have an ID. You fill out an affidavit that says you're financially burdened by the cost, you can't afford it, and they provide you an ID for free. Let's take off they're poor. Okay, so now that's gone. If you change your name, aka women, most notably women change their names. I know that in the transgender community now, some of them are changing their names. Okay, you go online to vote.org, or you go to Georgia's Vote. You can find that through their state website. And you put it, and you re-register that's on your ID, your new ID that you have. Like I said, the rule states it has to match. So if you get a new driver's license or you get your name changed legally, like i.e. you get married and you take the last name of the individual that you're married to, or you're someone who is changing your identity for whatever reason, you re-register to vote. They even tell you that when you're getting a name change. I asked somebody in Georgia that I am friends with who had a name change, and when they got their new driver's license and their new ID, they asked, "Do I have to re-register to vote because my ID no longer matches the one I'm registered with?" And they said it's in right there on the wall, but yes, you do. Would you like to re-register to vote under your new name? Yes, I would. It also, on vote.org, when you go to the states that require exact match, even states if your name has changed, re-register to vote. You don't have to fill out some complicated form about a change of anything. Also, if you change your address, you're supposed to re-register if your address has taken you to a different point. Now, in an exact match law, anything that changes on your ID, you re-register to vote. It's not difficult. I've asked people if this process is difficult. I've asked black people. I've asked Chinese people. Well, let me not say that, and I apologize for that statement. I've asked Asian people. I've asked Hispanic people, because they are the minorities listed in these complaints. They have stated to me that no, none of this is difficult. They do not understand why people say that the process is burdensome. Here's another thing. Birth certificate. Finding a birth certificate. If you don't have your birth certificate, it's burdensome to get your birth certificate. No, it is not. All you have to do is remember where and when you were born. You go online to that state's Department of Records and you fill out the form and you get your birth certificate. The person that I am currently with had the same issue before getting a passport. They contacted the state in which she was born, the Department of Records, got it sent overnight. Like that. It's not a difficult process. These people are saying that minorities are stupid and broke. And this is why this affects only them. Okay? I know a lot of white people that are ignorant and broke. I know a lot of white people that shouldn't vote. But it is your right to vote. And it is and it is your solemn duty to vote. They've made these processes extremely easy. Now, one of the things they also argue about voter rights being restricted in Texas is because Houston during the pandemic had a 24-hour voting place set up in Houston for people that worked weird hours. Okay? They took that away. Okay? Now everybody's saying that, well, that affects people who work weird hours. No, it doesn't, because in Texas's new law and every other state that has this law where they prohibit 24-hour voting, okay, has a law in place. I know Delaware has this law. I had to use it once. You cannot be denied by your employer to leave your place of work to vote from the moment early voting begins to the election day itself. They cannot prohibit you from voting. It's against the law. Okay? They can't. If you are in a job where you're not at home, where you're not going to be there, no, your employer is not required to fly you all the way back so you can vote. You do what's called an absentee ballot. Okay? You request to your state that you are working out of state. You present your proof of ID. They send you an absentee ballot. Another thing they said was they made it's difficult for seniors now to vote. No, in these states, 65 and older can still get a mail-in ballot without a problem. All they have to do is request one, and they get it without question. They said, well, it could be complicated. Another point of them saying that you're ignorant. This is them telling you you're stupid. You have to just make sure that your signature and your identification number, whichever one you use, and I'm going to get to that here in a second, matches, and pretty much anybody over the age of 65 or that's been around for a while knows your driver's license is that number on your driver's license number, your ID numbers on your card, where is it at, and everything else. They know these things. So, but requiring somebody to have an ID, what if they don't have an ID? Oh my God. Guess what? In the state of Texas, I know this one for a fact, and I know that 12 other states have this as well. If you do not have a state-issued ID, however, you have a government ID, you can use that. If you have a passport, you can use that. And even if you don't have those, a lease, a pay stub with your address on it, a bank statement with your address on it, and a utility bill with your address on it. Usually they mostly want you to bring two of those just to verify, but in Texas only requires one. And you can use that in lieu of an ID. Now, I don't know about you, but a lot of people have a cell phone bill. You know that's a utility bill, correct? And they say that they've made it difficult for you to vote. That it's hard for you to vote. It's expensive for you to vote. No, it's not. Now, one of the things that went away is people assisting you filling out your ballot. Right? Well, if you're an able-bodied person, there is legitimately no reason why you can't fill out a ballot. None. Zero. Zilch nada. You cannot give me a reason in the world that you can't fill out a ballot. If you can write your own name, if you can write C spot sit, you can fill out a ballot. Okay? It's not hard. Okay? However, if you are deemed medically incapable of filling out a ballot, okay? If you're medically capable, I don't know about library cards, Jinx. That seems a little excessive to get a library card, but you know, I don't know why they would make that a requirement for a library card. I mean, you're just going in to get a library card, but you should have proof where you live in case you don't return the books. They know where they can send the bill. But in the off chance that you happen to be a quadriplegic or you don't have arms, and you can't write with your toes. Because, in fact, I know 2 people that don't have arms and can write cleaner than I can with their feet. But in the off chance that this happens, you contact your voter's office. They will either send somebody to your home if it's not capable for you coming, or you go into their office. A signed affidavit witness form of a state employee in the office with another witness will sign a witness affidavit form, and they will fill it out as you state it. You will then look at it. You will verify to them that is everything has been voted correctly. You will watch them seal it, and then they will sign it, and your witness will sign it. Basically, the witness kind of fills it out. It's your physical part. They do the physical part for you, but you still state to them or convey to them how you want to vote. So there's still even that. So even people with disabilities can still vote. Everyone can still vote. But they're saying to you that voting, the way the voting laws are set up, it's racist. It's not racist. They're pushing a narrative, and then they're getting away with calling people of minorities ignorant. They're calling people stupid and getting away with it. Now, I'll guarantee you, if certain politicians went out there right now and called black people stupid, that would be the end of their career right there. So then my question is, why do liberals or Democrats get a pass? Why do they get to sit there and say you're ignorant? Because this is stupid. White people telling black people what's racist is even more outrageous. But they're calling you stupid, broke, and the process is burdensome. And when I've talked to people on the street about this, they find that insulting. But the mass group of people that seem to be backing this don't. You've got major media outlets backing it up, saying it is racist. And I don't understand this. And the worst part about it is Joe Biden doing this. I summarized the entire Atlanta speech into one sentence, but there is 50 different things that are so wrong in his speech in Atlanta. If you're against our voters' right legislation, then you support racism. That is the summary of his entire speech in Atlanta. If you don't believe me, go watch it. Okay? This coming from the guy that said this: I do not want schools desegregated. It will turn the inner city schools into jungles. Coming from this guy. He's going to lecture you on what racism is. I mean, the guy's a professional at it. He did eulogize the Grand Wizard of the KKK. So I guess if anybody's going to try to tell you, I guess, go to the source of racism, who happens to be the President of the United States. Now, did you see what they did to other leaders when they found out they just did blackface in a costume party? Now, yes, that is wrong and should never happen, and they should have gotten what they got. But they got crucified for it and thrown out of office. This guy literally fought against desegregation. And he's the President of the United States, and he's up there lecturing people on how not to be racist. And then they say that the voter rules and that states have are racist. Hell, Texas is probably one of the easiest states, and in their local elections, more people of minorities voted in their state local election counts than white people. So if Texas is so damn racist in election laws, if Georgia is so racist in election laws, Please explain that statistic. Here's another problem I had today and how frustrated I got with this entire process. So for the last 48 hours, I've been researching this because I knew the show was coming on tonight, and I had an extra day because I didn't get everything quite together yesterday for this. I went looking online everywhere, every resource I could possibly dig up. I watched videos of people that were claiming and people of high level saying that these voter ID laws and these voter laws in these states are racist. There is absolutely no evidence to back it up. In fact, the reason why the Georgia law didn't get overturned by the federal judicial system was because they were trying to claim their laws affect something that has never happened because law went into effect after the elections. You can't take down a law that hasn't caused anything. You can't sit there and say, well, that's illegal, even though nobody's ever broke that law. There's no basis for making a case when it has not affected anybody the way that you're saying it's going to affect anybody. It has not violated anybody's constitutional rights. Did you understand that? Nobody's constitutional rights have been affected, and nor will they. There is no evidence that exists that these laws are racist. Everywhere I go and look, every video I've watched, everything I've researched, and I went researching hard for this because I like to show both sides of the argument. I don't like only showing one side of the argument. There's a billion podcasts out there and live streams for you to watch that do that, okay? That only tell you from one point of view. Excuse me. Hell, if you want to see the left side of it, just go watch CNN all day, okay? And I went looking for the evidence to back or give the opposite side foundation to their argument. There is none. Zero. Zilch. Hell, I got in a fight with my significant other today over this. Okay? There's nothing there. It's a nothing burger. There is no racism in the voting system. There is no, and then here's another way to back that up and not even using talking points of one side. Go look at the state constitutions, which I did. It's a very painful process. They have laws specifically that prohibit that. Okay? And if you find out that for some reason you have been discriminated against, every single state states you must immediately report this to the Attorney General's office. Go to your locals first, your local district attorney's office, but it needs to not only be at the district attorney's office, it also got to get filed with the state attorney general's office. Immediately. Not 5 minutes later, 5 minutes, not 5 days later, not a year later. Every state says that, and immediate action will be taken. And what they mean by immediate action is they're going to contact you, find out what has happened, because this happened in a state, an actual, what you would call left-leaning state. In the state of California, somebody contacted their district attorney's office. I've read about it. I'm not going to name names because I don't have permission to do so. Because they felt that their rights to vote were infringed upon because of race. They told them what voting place they were at. You know, they had a person from the voter's office that they have to have one in every single polling station. The phone rang immediately. And lo and behold, that person got the vote right then and there. Now what they have done for some of these states on the voting, like one of the things that comes up is, well, they don't allow you to vote as much. Actually, the state of Georgia extended its early voting time, so you have more time to vote. Georgia's also going to have drop box voting, just not as many as they put out during COVID because it was an exemption for COVID. The same thing with the 24-hour voting in Houston because COVID was such a problem. They allowed the city, Harris County, to have the 24-hour voting locations by car and drive-through, and they were drive-through where you could go in, fill out your ballot in the front seat of your car, and then drop it in a box because how bad COVID was during the 2020 elections. Okay. But these things came to an end because since then we've learned how we can do this process without having to worry about killing everybody. We weren't 100% certain then because we are now. Okay? So some of that changed and went away because exemptions were made for COVID. In a pandemic at that severity, exemptions were made. But then the other problem that happened with all of this, because this also came up, okay? Remember when 2020 happened, the day after the election, and President Trump was saying that the election was stolen and election integrity and everything else, right? Let's see if this is the right one. Remember, President-elect Joe Biden said this very thing. Anyone who questions the integrity of our elections is a threat to our nation and its democracy. People were getting labeled as terrorists, white supremacists, all kinds of crazy crap, right? Because you were questioning the integrity of the election because we had never had a situation with all these mail-in ballots and people harvesting them the way that they were. And you had people stuck on lockdown, so people had to go get ballots. It was a crazy time. So there's a lot of people not sure about the whole process. Yes, the actions and statements of President Trump were not good, and some of his statements, and still some of his statements today, are inflammatory about this whole thing. But again, but Biden said, anyone who questions the integrity of our election is a threat to our nation and its democracy, right? Okay? Said that. And then the other night, he says this. This causes us to question the integrity of our elections and attacks the very nature of our democracy. In one hand, if you question the integrity of our democracy or our elections, you are attacking our democracy and you are a threat to the nation. But then now he gets to question the integrity of the elections and saying that if you don't, this is an attack on the very nature of our democracy. But he told you before you couldn't question it. And remember, if you even remotely made the comment that, well, I'm not 100% certain about this election, people are calling you a terrorist. But old Joe here is sitting here calling the integrity into question. And then if it doesn't trust me, it gets worse. Old Jen Psaki stated, the president has made it clear that the integrity of our elections are in question without this bill, talking about the voting bill that the Senate is currently on a filibuster over, and it's not going to happen. The president has made it clear that the integrity of our elections are in question without this bill. This was today while I was trying not to fall asleep during a press conference. The president has made it clear he thinks the integrity of the elections are solid and secure. They don't even know what the hell they're saying. They are literally contradicting themselves. They are telling you what you're supposed to think. And the worst part is a lot of people are buying into this. A lot of people are buying it. They've literally contradicted themselves. They tell you that you can't question the elections. That's horrible. But now they're questioning the elections. Isn't it a little weirder when the foot suddenly is on the other foot? When the foot is on the other foot? That sounded dumb. When the shoe's on the other foot, and you know you're coming into a midterm election cycle, and your party's not looking so good, suddenly there's a problem with the election. I like how they complained about the filibuster, but yet if anybody's from Nevada knows old, rest his soul, Harry Reid, who's passed away, Dusty Harry Reid, what made the filibuster, nobody even knew who the guy was. Didn't even know what state he represented until he became the Senate Minority Leader, and man, he used that filibuster like a weapon. Okay, but then when they want something to come across, and the other side decides to use a filibuster. Now it's horrible. It's horrific. It needs to go away. It's old. This is the crap that's going on, and people are buying everything that they're saying lockstep. In fact, the amount of people that are buying this stuff lockstep makes me wonder, how is CNN's ratings dropping? Are they just so are they even more obvious? I don't watch CNN, so I couldn't tell you. I catch some sound bites and some news articles. I just read the print. I don't watch them. I find their shows excruciatingly painful. Especially Seltzer. I'm surprised he hasn't started eating his desk yet. But seriously, you're not allowed to question the integrity of the elections. Oh, we get to question the integrity of the elections. We think the integrity is in question. We think it's perfectly fine. If you don't support this vote, our bills, you're racist. People of color are ignorant and broke. This is the crap they tell you. And I don't understand why there isn't an absolute outrage of every single person in this country over this they're saying. Because I can't be the only person on earth that's seen this. I can't be the only person that drew the line between, from point A to point B is a straight line. There isn't all this other stuff in between. It's a straight line. So it's not difficult to draw the line. Now, I know somebody might say, well, what about us that have our handshake and everything else and we don't make a straight line? You get what I'm saying. I can't be the only person on earth that has made this connection. Well, of course I'm not. Okay? Other countries have. That's the sad part. Other countries look at what we're doing and are shaking their head. They're literally face palming the crap that's being done over here. A point. Biden said he's going to be sending out 4 million face masks to everybody. Going to be sending out, at-home COVID tests, mask mandates, and all this other stuff, right? Country of Israel, the country of Hungary, the country of Great Britain. I haven't confirmed. There's like 2 other countries now that are completely 100% dropped their mandates all across the board. All of them. Because science is saying that all these vaccines and boosters aren't working. They don't work. That science has proved that natural immunity is stronger than these vaccines and boosters. What they're saying. Now, am I going to sit here and tell you don't do it? Nope, I'm not. I'm going to tell you that you do what you want to do. What you are comfortable with. If it makes you feel better and you want to go do it, by all means. I have a medical condition that says I can't take the vaccine, but now even I'm being labeled as a terrorist. I've had people tell me that. I tell them to take their fake hate somewhere else. And that's exactly what I'm calling this now. And I want you guys all to think about the same thing. When people start throwing this around because you have a different opinion than they do, and they want to start spouting all this stuff, do what I do. Look at them and tell them, take your fake hate somewhere else. Because it's what it is. When you look at it, who's the biggest one screaming about everything is racist? It's white, rich politicians. Or just white, rich liberals screaming everything is racist. It's fake hate. It literally is. It's, I want to feel important and act like I'm doing something for people when I'm not doing anything. I just want to feel like I am. It's fake hate. So I tell people, take your fake hate somewhere else. Okay? Society as a whole does not need the government to fix it. They never have. But somewhere along the lines, people have decided that the government is the answer. I don't know why. All I can figure out is once people started realizing they can get free shit, then the politicians will pander to that group of people and promise them a bunch of free stuff. Well, I can tell you right now, we've already been in this administration for over a year. Things haven't improved. So I don't understand how the government's supposed to help out. They haven't improved anything. They've made it worse. Am I going to say that the last president didn't help? No, I'm not going to say that he's without some fault in this. But I will say that good old Uncle Joe there sped things up a lot. Of course, that's my opinion on the issue. You could differentiate. My mother can't take. This is coming from Jinx in the chat room. My mother can't take the vaccine either. Too many allergies. I'll tell you, though, my aunt would be dead right now if she wasn't vaccinated. The shot lessened the symptoms enough that she could fight it. Well, then that's good. I'm glad that it worked out for her. And like I said, if that's what you want to do, that's your choice. I can't take it. I had pericarditis twice. And because of that, I can't take the vaccines because one of the side effects is a severe case of that. The second time I had it, it killed 5% of my heart. I can't withstand another episode of it. Okay? Little piece of personal information as to why, because I get asked that question all the time. Why can't you take it? Okay? So I can't. Now it worked out. Now they're finding out scientifically, and I don't know if this is the case in your aunt or not, but a lot of the people that are getting most severely affected by this are people that have 4 or more COVID comorbidities. Okay? Okay? Majority of these, especially now, they're finding out that a lot of these people that are now going are because they have comorbidities. We weren't allowed to really discuss that in the beginning, if you remember. That was called misinformation. We weren't allowed to discuss any reason why people can't take this or any reason why they died. That was called misinformation. We could only go off of their science. Well, you got the President of the United States still going off of their science, but the rest of the world is looking at their science, and their science is saying, Now, for people that have multiple comorbidities, the vaccine very well could help them out. And I'm not going to deny it. Because if it lessens their symptoms and gives them the ability to fight off the disease or the virus, then so be it. And like I said, in your situation with your aunt, I'm glad that it helped her. I've known a couple people where it did help them, and I've known a couple people where it didn't do squat. They still got sick anyway. Hell, I've had COVID 3 times. I've had Alpha, Delta, and Omicron. Okay. First time I had it, I had a headache and a couple digestive issues. Second time, I didn't even know I had it. The third time, which is just recently, I had some of the worst sweats I have ever had in my life. I've worked out like hell in a hot environment and didn't sweat that bad. You know, I had a couple other things. I felt like I'd been thrown out of a plane, landed on a highway, and then got run over. It sucked. But it's part of the reality. I can't take anything for it, so this is where I'm at. But these people, what's sad about this, and Zion Bryn, who's in the chat room, pointed me out to a YouTube video today about a scientist, a Dutch scientist that I can't remember his name off the top of my head. It talks about mass formation and its psychosis. You really should look into that. You really should. You will learn a lot. And the man is not speaking down about vaccines in it. He's not telling you not to take them or anything like that. He's just talking about the psychosis of mass formation and how it and it gave examples of how it's happened in history. what I'm sitting here talking to you guys tonight about how they're telling you about how voter ID laws are racist and states voter, regular laws are racist and everything else, and people buying it lockstep is all part of this. Okay. And you really see it. Okay. So I cap on my top story. Voter ID laws are not racist. There is 100% no proof. The next time that somebody tells you that voter ID laws are racist, tell them to prove it. Actual hard evidence, not opinion. Not because I think people are stupid and broke. That's an opinion. Actual hard evidence. They don't have any. And then they're going to call you names for having a difference of opinion. Okay? Once again, the next time you hear somebody say, well, we think that November's election integrity is in question, bring up what happened on November 3rd of 2020. If you question the integrity of the elections, you were a threat to the country. Then you should just look at him and call him a terrorist. Are you a domestic terrorist? Why? Because that's what they called people that questioned the elections on November 3rd of 2020. You're questioning the elections? Or does that make you now a terrorist? Start calling these people out on their hypocrisy. Because that's what it is. It's hypocrisy. We could say whatever we want and it's perfectly fine, but you can't. That's hypocrisy. Start calling out people. It's time you took a stand against them. That's the only way that we're going to stop this, is you take a stand against them. Call them on their hypocrisy. Tell them to show you proof that voter ID laws are racist and do not accept an opinion. Even if they quote sources like the civil liberty, the ACLU, the whole thing in the ACLU, I didn't even put it on here because it's nothing but opinion. And it is garbage. Okay? I just used the ABA. Theirs was the least amount of garbage that I found that was at least, okay, I can read this without throwing up in my mouth or screaming. Start fighting back. Stop letting fake hate affect you. It's their weapon. It's fake hate. Just don't let it happen. When they try to push those narratives on you, stop them. The narratives have gotten so deep and so far between that now they don't remember what they started with, and now they're contradicting themselves. And you have people that are buying this lockstep because, why? They feel so little of themselves in their life that they have to attach to something that makes them think they're worth something. You watch that video, you'll know what I'm talking about. Okay? And now they just buy whatever is told to them, no matter if it completely contradicts what they were told before. Period. Stop fake hate. You're not racist. This whole ideology of systematic racism, if you look at it, there actually is no real evidence. It's all opinion. We used to be that way. Are we still feeling some of the effects from where we've changed from that? Yes, there are still some effects from where we used to be. But we ended a lot of the final parts of that in 85. I think it's 85. 85 or 89. Okay. Is there still some residual effects from it? Yes, there's some residual effects, and it will still take some time. But is the system systematically racist? No, it's not. Don't let them tell you that. Because it's not. Some of the most powerful people in the United States of America are people that are not white. Leaders in the military, not white, not male, not white males. Government, take a look around Congress. There is more and more people of minorities in Congress than there ever has before. We are This path has been corrected, and we are going down the right lane. Don't let them tell you that we're not. Don't let them snatch you back into pre-1960s. That world here doesn't exist, but they don't want to teach you that. They don't want to teach you where we've come from there. They only want to teach you that to make you think that's all there is. That's not true. We have come a long way. There are still some things we need to work on, but for the most part, we have corrected the wrongs that started at the foundation of this country to now. Don't let them think it hasn't. Don't let them make you think that. Fake hate needs to stop. I'm dead serious. Otherwise, this country is going to destroy itself. I can tell you from personal experience, you don't want a war on our own soil. You don't want it. So now let's move on to another subject, which actually today turned into this, but it wasn't. Our second topic of the night. Coach Bruce Arians is the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, not a huge fan of his. Why? Because, well, my team lost to him in the first round of the playoffs. And, of course, anybody that knows me knows I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan. We refer to maybe next year as our patron saint. Okay? However, during the playoff game, there happened to be a play where they ended up in a pile right next to where the coaching staff was with Tampa Bay. And the players were in the pile, and one of the Tampa Bay players grabbed a Philadelphia Eagle and yanked him out of the pile. Folks, that's a 15-yard penalty. You can't do that. It's called unsportsmanlike conduct. Okay? So Bruce Arians, who was standing right there when it happened, smacked Adams upside the head in the back of the helmet and said, "Hey!" I'm pretty sure he said, "Knock that shit off." Adams looked right at him. Arians told him, "You can't do that. It's a penalty." And that was it. It was over, right? That was it. The NFL announced on Tuesday that they were fining Arians $50,000 for hitting one of his players. Now, I don't know about you. I've played football for a while. Okay? I can tell you, and in fact, I'll even name names. When I was in high school, okay, I remember screwing up one night, and I remember Coach Schmatt, Tom Schmatt, grabbed me by my face mask, pulled me face to face with him, and told me if I ever did something like that again, I wasn't ever playing football. Coach Dave McDowell smacked me right upside the helmet because I got caught for an offsides on defense. Okay? Well, neutral zone infraction, actually. Because I lined up over the ball instead of, I lined up past the tip of the ball. I wasn't paying attention when I got in the snap, and I was late getting out. We were late coming out of the huddle, and the other team was running no offense on us. We didn't even huddle, but we didn't get set right. No excuse. I was over the ball. It was perfectly good penalty. Got whacked right upside the head. Coach Keller turned around and smacked me for one incident. Now, to understand, I played for a few years. Hell, one of my own players, Earl Stewart, our running back, whacked me right upside my head. Why? Because I did not go in the direction I was supposed to go to block for him as he was running the ball. We got back to the huddle, popped me in the head, and told me to get my head in the game. I've done that to other players. I've seen coaches do it to other players. I've never watched anybody get harmed by a coach smacking them upside the helmet. Now, I said they're wearing a helmet, and telling them to get their damn head back in the game, right? I think this is complete bullcrap, and I got into an argument with people about this and said it's bullshit. It is because coaches do this. It's their way of getting their players who are testosterone-driven, muscle-bound men wanting to hurt things to get their head straight for a second so they can convey a message to them to knock it off. The response I got back from people was, if coach ever put his hands on me, I'm going to put my hands on them. Well, if I was your coach and I smacked you upside the helmet and told you get your head back in the game and don't screw up like that, you're going to cost us the game, and you put your hands on me, I'm going to point to the locker room. Say, you can go there, take your crap off, go catch a cab to the airport. You can go home. You're not playing on this team no more. Okay? Now, I can understand that if I walked up to a player and, like, socked them in the stomach and they hit me back, oh, yeah. But popping somebody upside the helmet to get their attention to say, hey, knock it off. I mean, what? When your mom popped you upside your head because you did something stupid, you're going to throw hands with your mom? You know, and then they kept saying about this and then I finally called people on and I said, okay, fine, cool. Y'all just sat there and said John Madden, greatest coach in all time. They were saying that Arians needs to be fired and all this. John Madden, greatest coach of all time. Man, John Madden would pop people left and right for screwing up. And I'd like to see one of them turn around and throw hands with John Madden. John Madden was a big dude even when he was coaching the Raiders. John Madden will hurt you. Well, he would have. He can't now. Rest his soul, John Madden. Rest your soul, John Madden. Love John Madden. Coach has been doing it for years. Jim Johnson, Philadelphia Eagle defensive coordinator. He's also passed away. Man was 5 foot tall. Defensive players come off that field screwing up. He'd grab them by the face mask and yank them down to his level, because almost every NFL player, even the water boy, was bigger than he was, and scream at him in their face. I didn't see any outrage from any of those fans because Facebook didn't exist, so they couldn't be outraged. That's the other part that I'm working on here to tie these two stories together. Do you notice a lot of this outrage is coming online? I bet when you go face to face with these people, if they're by themselves and not in this mass group of people peacefully protesting, they ain't like that. They ain't got that kind of testicular fortitude, or, you know, I don't even know what you call it on the other side so you can be fair between the two. Testicular fortitude. When you're one-on-one with these people, the outrage is gone. Now, when they got 90 of their friends around them, oh, they scream and bark at you like weird dogs. But when they're solo, but the thing is, social media. I can be on here and be a keyboard warrior and all the fake rage I want about this, and I can sound important because I'm angry. I finally just said I had enough of it, and I told one dude, I said, "Just take your fake hate somewhere else." And the third they shut up because I called them on it. Oh God, Andy Reid did the same thing to Donovan McNabb in the playoffs. Was telling McNabb, get your head back in the game, man. We got to win this thing. And guess what? They won the game. Go figure, it worked. Okay. Jinx over here talking in the chat. I ought to catch up. Sorry, I'm not. I'll tell you in a few days. We just got tested again this morning. Cat feels like garbage. Oh, God, please. Lots of fluid. Rest. Okay. Chicken noodle soup. It's a good thing. It really is. But rest. Yeah, I know. I'm really glad I'm better too. Madden was ruthless. Keyboard warriors got no spine. They can't back up what they say. No, they can't. A lot of them cannot. Now, I have run across a couple that, yes, by themselves, they could decimate you. But they're not fake haters, actually. That's the funny part about it. The ones that actually can take care of themselves, not fake haters. But yeah, but there was no outrage. And the thing is a lot of these people have, because they're sitting here behind a keyboard, they can say all the crap they want. And I think I just hit the wrong button. Yeah, I did. I hit the wrong button. Let me go back to that. Sorry. My bad. But yeah, so it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And that's where a lot of this comes from. I could sit here behind a keyboard and I could tell you everything I want to say and you can't do anything about it. I miss the days when you had a beef with somebody, just y'all met up, took care of it, and then went and had a drink together. Or if you were too young, you went and had a soda together. It was over. Not now. So yeah, so it's ridiculous. Everything. It's just nuts. Like I said, folks, I don't think Bruce Arians should get fined. I shouldn't think he should get fired. Oh, here's the tie-in to where this popped up today. This happened on ESPN. And it popped up in that conversation, too. Somebody made this comment. They said, oh, well, he's racist because he hit a black football player. Folks, I do not know how good you guys are with math. But if you take a look at the NFL and you take a look at the amount of players that are white versus non-white, you'll find that white football players are actually in the minority in the NFL. One of the sites I looked at, I'm not sure how accurate it was, 78% of NFL players are not white. So if you lined up 100 players and you smacked them all in the head, I guess that makes you racist because you're going to smack 78 and 7. You're going to, out of 100 people, 78 of them you're going to hit are not white. You can't claim racism in a sport that is predominantly not white. You can't sit there and say because he smacked a player upside the head to get his head in the game, you can't say that's racism. Because I'm pretty damn sure, and I saw him do it. I actually, somebody showed a video to counter that saying, well, he only hits black athletes. I watched him pop Gronkowski upside the head and Brady upside the head last year. Okay? So I think he's an equal opportunity head popper. He'll pop you right upside the head when you're not doing it right. Why? He's an old school coach. I'm just waiting because now popping him upside the head gets you fined. What, tomorrow or what, this weekend when we have the playoffs, if a coach screams at a player, now he's going to get fined for hurting their feelings? It's the NFL. I mean, seriously. And the problem is the people who sit there and scream that this is they've never played championship level sports at all. They've never been involved going for a championship. Shit gets tense. Things happen. People start screwing up in the moment. Sometimes you got to get your head popped to get your head back in the game where you're at. In fact, 90% of the people that are arguing on a thread about this never even played football. I literally started asking people, who'd you play for? Oh, I never played football. Then shut up. You don't even have a dog in the fight. Your opinion is invalid if you've never played the game. In fact, I even stopped asking, have you ever played sport, competitive team sports? And there was a majority of them that were against what Arians did and say no. And I'm like, if you've never even played sports, what the hell are you even talking about? How do you know? Everybody in that thread that agreed with what he did to Adams all played ball at some point, whether it be baseball, hockey, football. They all the ones that agreed with his actions all played sports at some point. Hell, jinx you. I can tell you how many times you have off day at AmpGuard. I turn around and I'll pop you with a sword or something and say, hey, what's going on with you? You know? It's a sport. You know? Hell, we've been in tournaments before and I've sat there and looked at it and said, what the hell's going on with you? You know, get your head in it. It's the competitive nature that this happens. But anyway, folks, I've gone on long enough. I'm trying not to have these 2, 3, 4 hour shows because people start fading off. I have one of those voices that could put people to sleep. And to keep it more professional and keep it cut down. And that later on when YouTube starts putting commercials in my shows, it's not every 5 minutes. So anyway, folks, just like I said today, the lesson for tonight is just don't buy into fake hate. Just don't. Voter ID laws are not racist. And state voter laws are not racist. New for me at the time, never thought it was wrong, though. You were just intense. I mean, I was. But did I ever do it where did I ever sit there and pop you to say, hey, what's going on with you, man? Did I ever do it and injure you? No, I didn't. I did it enough to get your attention to look at you and go, okay, what the hell's going on? Get your head back into it. But don't buy into this fake hate bull crap. Don't buy into it. It's bull. Every bit of it. It's a lie. Don't buy into it. It's only going to lead you down a road of just absolute destruction, self-destruction. It needs to stop. Period. It's time we stood up to this. I watched people lay over and take it for a long time. It needs to stop. But like I said, if I could just leave you with something tonight, it's that. Just don't buy into fake hate. All right. For everybody here at the world famous Rich Wilson Show, I am Rich Wilson. I hope you guys have yourselves a wonderful night. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, which that doesn't leave me much room for error. Tell Kat I hope she feels better. I really do. And hope you come out okay. I hope everything's good in the end. And everybody else that's watching this show tonight, whether you're watching it when I did it live or you're watching it later on, I hope the world is working all right. And if it's not, just remember, the sun sets, but it does rise in the morning. Okay? It really does. That's funny. Going up over here. Oh, the sun will rise in the morning. No matter how dark it may seem, the sun will rise tomorrow. For everybody here at the world famous Rich Wilson Show, have yourselves a wonderful night. We're done. We're gone. We're out of here. You guys have yourselves a good one. Jinx, thanks for hanging out in the chat room and talking with me tonight. To Zion Bryn, who was in here earlier, you guys have yourself a wonderful night. Stay well, folks. We'll see you later. I also forgot, if you really like this, hit the subscribe button, click the bell for notifications, so that way you'll know every time I'm on, and also share this with your friends, all right? Share this with your friends. Now I'm out of here. I forgot to do that. We'll see y'all later.
Bye.